Okay, hi everybody, welcome to this week's stream. How are we all doing? Just making sure everything's all right. Thank you so much for arriving on time, everyone. Hope you've all had a splendid week so far. I'm Yusuf. Welcome to Math Squads with myself. As you're probably already aware, today's topic is going to be on algebraic fractions, and specifically speaking, we're going to have a focus on exam questions. So I'm trialing something new today because the general feedback I've seemed to have gotten over the past few weeks is that you guys want something a bit more challenging. So I thought, okay, let me try and incorporate that. So the style of this lesson is going to be slightly different in that we're just going to go through exam questions. So I am very interested to see how you guys find that. And you know, the course of action that we take will be slightly different, and I'll guide you through that as we do anyway. But I am excited. So tell me how you all have been. Hope you've had an amazing week. How's school? The weather's calmed down a little, as you can see, right? Look, I'm in my big fat hoodie this week. Primarily because it's gone a bit colder, and I'm not great at handling cold weather, so I'm a bit shivery this afternoon. But I hope you're all doing well anyway. Thank you so much for messaging in the chat anyway. The ones who have come in, I can see. Are there any regulars? No regulars so far. Muhammad Abdullah, how are you doing? Do you know partial fractions? Yes, I do. Know partial fractions. What level of education do you have? Coincidentally, I had just graduated a mathematics degree, okay, literally about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to be graduating next month in terms of getting my certificate and stuff, but I finished all my exams. So I'm a bit of a nerd, right, when it comes to maths. I did a whole degree in it. Can you believe that? So I mean, if it's any positive, only one thing you guys don't have to worry about then is the level of knowledge then, right? Because I'm confident in my mathematical expertise. So yeah, so I just finished my degree in mathematics and economics, to be honest, but it was about 80% mathematics. So yeah, thank you for asking. And for those of you wondering, I studied at City University in London, right? It's in a place called Islington. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, Islington. Yeah, it's a place in London. That's where my university is. So I just graduated there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll give it about another minute or so, and then we'll get started, right? So in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just give you a brief overview of what the plan is. So as you saw in the title, focus for today is going to be only exam questions, okay? Because I thought I can, you know, we're doing a lot of content and, you know, a lot of aspects of me teaching you stuff, but I thought let's make it different this week. So, but don't worry, I'm still going to teach you the stuff, but this time I'm going to teach you the stuff while teaching you how to answer the questions as well, okay? And I hope you guys have some knowledge of algebraic fractions. Hopefully you guys had a go at these questions on the board here. I intentionally put these here because they're quite important. And if you guys struggle with any of these, then you might need to note it down in terms of one thing you have to focus on in the coming weeks, because a lot of the questions we're going to be doing today are focused on the knowledge of factorizing quadratics. Okay, not all, but most of the questions are primarily on factorizing. Okay, so without further ado, why don't we get straight into it and have a look at some of the exam questions. Okay, so yep, introduction stuff. Let's move on then to the first one. Okay, so they start off relatively easy. Let me just zoom in. They start off relatively easy, and they're going to get progressively harder, so to speak. Okay, so the first one is just a simplify question. And essentially, when it comes to simplifying fractions, the only thing you are looking to do, the key word is simplify. So to simplify a fraction, you're looking for things that you can cross out on the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so anything that is identical on both the numerator and denominator. But the only weird thing about the denominator here is that we have a 5 and then we have the x minus 1 squared in a bracket. Okay, and it's being squared. Okay, I see a correct answer in the chat already, which is brilliant. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rewrite this, okay, as x minus 1 over 5x minus 1 bracket again x minus 1. Okay, and you might realize that this is because of the fact that we're squaring it. Because when we square something, we're multiplying it by itself. So the denominator here becomes 5 x minus 1 times by x minus 1. So I've written the same thing, exactly the same thing, but just in a different manner. Okay, and what you can do now is you can cross things out. Okay, as I was mentioning, when you simplify fractions, you're just looking for things you can cross out. And in this case, it's one lot of x minus 1 on both the numerator and denominator. Okay. Because we cross out this x minus 1 in the numerator, what remains is simply a 1. Okay. Because you've done x, because you've divided it, essentially, you've crossed it out. And then the denominator is what's left, and that's 5 bracket x minus 1. Okay, and you can expand this. Thank you, Abdullah, you did expand it in the denominator. So essentially, you can do that. Okay. Don't worry, Abdullah, there are some very, very difficult questions coming. But I thought we'll start off light just to get you guys going. Okay, let me give you another one. If you guys are finding this easy, relatively straightforward, then, you know, I'll skip through some of the more relative. But to be honest, there's only 1 or 2 that are of this level. The higher level stuff is coming. Okay, these are 1-2 markers. Next one then, same thing where we have something in the numerator, something in the denominator, and we're looking for things to cross out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. Let me just make my pen a little bit thinner. Yes, see some correct answers in the chat. Brilliant. Okay. Again, I'm going to rewrite this out. So we have 8 x minus 4 in a bracket. And then the denominator is x minus 4 squared, which we know, as we've discussed, is the same as x minus 4 multiplied by itself. And again, because we have something identical that appears on the numerator and denominator, we cancel them out. And so we're left with 8 numerator, and our denominator is x minus 4. And that is how we obtain the mark. Right, so just an introduction. The reason why I wanted to show you these questions is just to hone in the concept, the point that when you're simplifying fractions, you're looking for things to cancel out on the top and bottom. And if you can't ever find something to cancel out on the top and bottom, then more often than not, you have to do some manipulation of those expressions, okay, to get something to be identical. Right. Believe that they are the end. Yes, here we go. Okay, so the next set of questions that we're going to be doing, hopefully you guys can see that properly. Let me zoom in a bit more. Okay, so the next set of questions, in terms of simplifying them, we're going to be focusing on quadratic. Okay, quadratic factorization. That's the focus of these questions. Okay. Now, hopefully you guys are aware of how to factorize quadratics. Okay. There are several different methods. Okay, because we have 2 different types of quadratics here. We have a quadratic in the numerator, which in terms of factorizing, you have to use a slightly different method. And then you have a more, shall I say, a more typical looking quadratic in the denominator. So what I'm going to do is, because these are quite high level, I'm just going to give you guys maybe 30 seconds, just a minute head start. Okay. Because I don't expect many of you to know how to do this because they are quite high level. If you're rewatching this, because it's obviously going to be published on YouTube, give it a pause now, maybe have a go, and then see how you get on. Okay. I'm seeing a correct answer in the chat, which is absolutely brilliant. Abdullah, well done. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just go over the reason why we have basically how we go about finding the right answer. Okay, so if we consider just the numerator for now, okay, we have something called, okay, the difference of 2 squares. Okay, what does that mean? Let's break it down. Difference means when you're subtracting. Okay, so obviously that's referring to this subtraction there. And of 2 squares just means of 2 square numbers, right? So obviously x squared is a square number because, you know, x is being squared, so we end up with what's a square number. And then 16 is a square number as well because 4 times 4 is 16. So that is why this is called the difference of 2 squares. Now, in terms of how we factorize this, okay, we essentially take the square roots of both of these terms. So the square root of x squared is straightforward. That's just x. Put that here, put that here. And the square root of 16, as we discussed, is 4. Put those in a bracket. And you just put a plus in one bracket and a minus in the other bracket. The reason why this works, guys, yes, Abdullah, I believe we do have some of those. The reason why this is, this is the way it is because if you actually expand this out, you'll get this expression here in terms of the difference of two squares. Okay, so then that is what our numerator is. So x plus 4, x minus 4. Okay, and I'm gonna factorize the bottom one bit quicker. So essentially what we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make -4 and add to make -3. Okay, and those are, so -4 you can obtain by multiplying -4 and +1. Okay, and if you added them together you'd get -3. So these are the two factors in this scenario. So I'm going to put those as a factorization here. If you're unsure, guys, about how I obtain the new denominator, hi Mikhail, thank you so much for joining. So if you're unsure, guys, of how I obtain this, you might need to revisit quadratic factorizations or factorizing quadratics. Okay, cross these two out because they are the identical things. So we're left with x plus 4 and x plus 1, right? And that's 4 marks, okay? So it's not bad in terms of the amount of work you have to do. You don't have to do a lot, to be honest. You just have to factorize 2 quadratics. And after that, you're just crossing some bits out. So that's why, you can obtain the 4 marks relatively nicely. Okay, this is a bit trickier. I'm going to give you a hint. The first quadratic, or the numerator, sorry, you factorize as a single bracket first. And then you factorize it as a difference of 2 squares. Okay, I'll show you what that means in just a second. But again, I'm just going to give you guys a quick head start, just for those who want to try this. Okay, if you're watching this back, obviously give the video a pause and see my answers in just a moment. Okay, so yeah, that's the hint I'm going to give you. Obviously, the denominator is just the usual quadratic factorizations, as you will. How you doing, Mikhail? Nice to see you back. It's always a pleasure to have you. If you're a regular and you're coming back for a weekly thing, put it in the chat. It's always nice to see how you guys are doing. It's always lovely to see regular faces. Okay, so let's go about factorizing this. So as I said, we're going to focus on the numerator because that's the trickier one, I think. So 2x squared minus 50. As mentioned, I'm going to factorize that as a single bracket first. What do I mean by that is, well, essentially, I'm just going to factorize both terms by 2. Okay, take 2 on the outside. And then what I'm left on the inside is essentially what you get when you divide both these terms by 2. So it's x squared minus 25. So that's how we obtain that. So a single bracket factorization to begin with. Then you'll notice, guys, that this term here, what is it? Again, it's a difference of 2 squares because x squared is a square number and 25 is a square number. So we can actually factorize this further. So let's go ahead and do so. Let me just change my pen, otherwise it's not letting me do it. Oops, there we are. So let's factorize. So this, we can factorize further into x plus 5 and x minus 5. Okay, because of the concept of difference of 2 squares. Hopefully that makes sense. So then our numerator is 2 bracket x plus 5 bracket x minus 5. Okay. Hope that makes sense, guys. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll just go over the stuff. And then our denominator, essentially, again, we're doing the same thing where we're looking for factors of 10 that add to make 7. Okay. And those, so are 5 times 2. Okay. Because if you add them, 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. Okay, and these were the 2 interested values. Okay, so then these are the 2 factors. So let's put them in. So we have x plus 5 and x plus 2. Cross out the things that appear on both top and bottom. So we're left with 2x minus 5 and x plus 2. A common question that I get asked, guys, at this point is, do I need to expand the numerator? Do I need to write it as 2x minus 10? Okay. And the answer to that is, there's no correct answer. You can expand it and you don't need to either. You'll still get the marks. My personal opinion is, as you can see, I always leave stuff in factorized form because I don't like to get in the habit of expanding. Very rarely in a simplifying question are you required to expand a bracket in order to get the, to get the final answer. I might be wrong, but it's very rare. I've been doing this topic for years and years, and very rare is that you actually have to expand it. So actually leaving it in brackets form just gives you that habit, puts you in that habit of never expanding, because sometimes when you expand, you can actually go away from the answer. More often than not, you're probably not, but in some cases that can be true. And I think there's some examples in which you'll see why that is the case. Okay, so generally speaking, I would say, yeah, don't factorize. Don't expand. Okay, right, now they're starting to pick up. Okay, because we're moving on from difference of two squares, and now we are looking at factorizing a more challenging, a higher level quadratic, and I'm specifically referring to the numerator. Okay, hopefully you can see it. Let me zoom in a bit just to make sure everything's clear. This is what we're at. Show that 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 all over x squared plus 6x plus 5 can be written in the form, whenever it's written, where a, b, c, and d are integers. Okay. Guys, my general advice at this stage is, always, whenever you see a question like this, just ignore this. Ignore this. Honestly, ignore this. Because many a time you look at that and it can confuse you vastly, because you have a, b, c, and d. You have 4 different variables there that you have to calculate. And the fact that you have those 4 there waiting to be calculated can be a bit intimidating and can put you off a bit. So I just ignore them. Put your book over them, put another pen over them. Don't even look at them, because they might put you off. Focus on the actual algebraic fraction that you have. Okay, what have you been taught? We've been taught that in order to simplify a fraction, you're looking for things that you can cancel out on the top and bottom. At this moment of time, there's nothing that can be cancelled out. So what do we need to do? We need to factorize. Factorize is the key word that you need to implement. So we have, so let's focus on this. Again, this is a different type of quadratic, primarily because we have a big number in front of the x squared now. Okay, so how do we do this? Again, some of the method I use is something called the AC method, where you multiply the first and the last number to begin with. Hopefully, you guys have been taught something similar. If your teacher's taught you another method, use that. You don't need to implement mine, but this is the one I use. Okay, so we start off by multiplying 2 and -5, which gives -10. Then I'm finding factors of -10, which add to give -3. Okay, and the two factors are -5 times by 2. Because if you times them 2, you get -10. If you add them 2, you get -3, which is the middle term here. Then what I do is I rewrite the original quadratic in extended form with these two. So 2x squared plus 2x minus 5x minus 5. Okay, so I've rewritten the original quadratic here in extended form. This bit in the middle is the same as this, right? Because if you simplify them, you'll get -3x again. So what I've done is I've just kind of unsimplified them. Okay, so I've just broken that middle term apart into 2 separate parts. And I got those 2 numbers, -5 and 2, from here. So then what do? We create a little dotted line down the middle. Okay, we factorize the expression on the left. We can take 2 out and we can take x out, and we're left with x plus 1. Okay, hopefully you guys understand that. Then we're going to copy and paste this one here. Then we copy and paste this bracket onto the other side. And then we think, okay, what number do I need to have on the outside here in order to make this the factorized version of this? And you'll realize that it is -5. Okay. I have a faster method. Write this as, yes. Okay. Again, I would suggest, if you think you have a method that you're more confident with, use that. I don't think mine is by any stretch the best one. To be fair, I think it's pretty elongated unnecessarily anyway. So yeah, if you have a method, use that. Right, so then this is what we have. So then our bracket or factorized term is the one that we copied and pasted, so x plus 1, and also it's the terms on the outside, so 2x and minus 5. So that is our numerator factorized. A bit long, but it's exactly what you need to do in these scenarios. And again, I'm just going to quickly factorize the denominator, looking for two terms that if we multiply, gives you 5, if we add, gives you 6. So that's x plus 1 and x plus 5. Okay. Cancel these two out. And so our final answer, to obtain all 3 marks, guys, you need to give your final answer as 2x minus 5 and x plus 5 as your denominator. Okay. And I believe, yes, Abdullah got that in the chat as well. So thank you, Abdullah. Well done. Okay, if any others are just catching up, or you know you're pretty much there but you're not sure about something, just ask me a question. If not, we're gonna quickly move on to the next one. Okay, so those were plain and simple. We were factorizing and cancelling things out on the top and bottom. Now we're going to incorporate things like multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, so I think we're going to do multiplication and multiplication and division first. Then we're going to move on to some addition and stuff. Okay, right. Again, even though we're multiplying here, guys, what I would suggest is just have a look at your fractions. Are there any that can be simplified before you do any sort of multiplying? And if you actually look, yes, there is. Because you can simplify, or when I say simplify, I mean factorize. You can factorize this, you can factorize this, and you can actually factorize this as well. So that's the first thing I would do in terms of going about answering this question. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of moments. See if you guys can have an attempt of this question. Hopefully you guys can see it clearly. Yeah, that looks fine. So have a go. But again, begin by factorizing anything that you see, anything that you think can be factorized. Okay. How are we doing for time? We're doing relatively good for time. Okay, I think I have a total of 11 questions. So fingers crossed we can get through all of them. Okay. And I'll maybe give you another 30 seconds. And then we'll proceed. Again, sorry, forgot to mention, you might notice we have the annoying things at the end as well, where it can be written in the form ax plus b over cx plus d. Okay, ignore that. Just deal with what you're given in the question in terms of simplifying. Once you simplify it, then you can come back to that at the end. Okay, I'm going to quickly show you what you should have done. So the first fraction is 4x squared minus 9 over 6x plus 9. Okay. Right. The numerator here. Okay, again, some of you, if you notice this, I'll be very impressed. So let's do the denominator first. Numerator is a bit trickier. Denominator, if you factorize this, we have 3 on the outside and then 2x plus 3 on the inside, I believe. Isn't that right? Yeah. And then our numerator, this is tricky, right? Because of the fact that 4x squared minus 9, you can't factorize that into a single bracket, right? Because there's no common factor of 4x squared and 9, negative 9. But what you might notice, and again, I'll be very impressed if you took note of this, we have, again, difference of 2 squares. Difference of 2 squares because we have 2 square numbers here. We have 4x squared, which is a square number. Okay, I'll show you why. So 4x squared is equal to 2x times by 2x. Okay, so that's a square number. And obviously 9 is a square number because it's 3 times 3. So that is that was the trickiest part about accessing this question. So then in terms of factorizing it, it would be 2x plus 3 in one bracket, 2x minus 3 in one bracket. Why do we have 2x and 3? Because, well, they're the square roots of the 2 terms that we have in the brackets, in the original numerator. So we cancel these 2 out. And we simplify this to be 2x minus 3 over 3. So notice there, guys, that before we've done any multiplying, we've actually made made life a lot easier for ourselves because we have less terms to deal with. Because we crossed half of them out, essentially, when we actually do get to the multiplying, we have less terms to deal with, so it makes our life easier. And then we look at the second fraction. So it's 2x with x squared minus 3x. Okay. Obviously, the numerator you can't simplify, you can't factorize because it's just one term. So that's going to stay as 2x. X squared minus 3x, you can factorize that as a single bracket. So we take x on the outside, and then we have x minus 3 on the inside. Okay. And at this moment of time, nothing can, actually something does cancel out. We have an x here and we have an x here. So we can erase them. So we're left with 2 over x minus 3. So if it's not already apparent, guys, knowing how to confidently factorize and simplify fractions without doing any sort of arithmetic to them is vitally important. Okay, and I get these might be challenging. A lot of these questions do come up at the end of papers. But the thing I would say, the most important thing when it comes to this topic is just factorized quadratics and different types of quadratics. Okay, so if you're struggling with some of these questions, definitely go over quadratics in terms of factorizing, and that'll help. So this is what we're left with. Okay, sorry, I know. Let me just, yeah. So what we're going to do now is, remember, we were asked to multiply the two. Okay, so what we have obtained are these two fractions, and we just need to multiply them together. So let's do so. Okay, where should we do so? I'm going to move down a little, guys. So we have 2x minus 3 over 3 multiplied by 2x minus 3. Okay. Let's multiply them. Okay. If we multiply the numerators, we will have, what do we have? 4x. Actually, well, I'm going to leave it as a bracket, guys, just in case. Just in case. Okay. So it actually becomes 2 and then bracket 2x minus 3. And then the denominator is 3 bracket x minus 3. Okay. Can you simplify anything here? Okay, no, you can't. A lot of people might think that you can simplify the 2x minus 3 and x minus 3. Unfortunately, you can't. They are two different terms. They have to be identical in order for you to cancel them out. Brilliant. I see a correct answer in the chat. So then now you can expand it if you want. So we have 4x minus 6 over 3x minus 9. Okay, and that is your final answer. So how are you feeling? A lot of working out there, to be honest, and it is 3 marks. So, you know, if you want to leave it out or if you come back to it at the end of the paper, fair enough, it's only 3 marks. But one thing I will guarantee, guys, and I promise you this, not many people will attempt this type of question. They will leave it blank. So you might think of it as only 3 marks, but it's 3 marks that you can gain an advantage on in relative to like 90% of your peers doing the same exam paper. Okay, wonderful. Okay, that was a bit of a long one, so I apologize if that was a bit tricky, but they don't get any easier, guys. But don't worry, okay? You're not meant to be able to do these. I mean, when I say that, I mean, I don't expect you to do these or be able to do these from start to finish on your own. What I expect is that after I've shown you it, do you understand everything? And if you do understand everything, brilliant. If you don't understand something, then you know there is maybe something fundamentally in terms of knowledge of a concept that might be missing and you need to go over. So one thing I would suggest is once you understand everything, could you do it again? Why didn't you factorize it like 4x plus 3x minus 3? What are we talking about here? Oh, you're talking about the numerator here? Because, Abdullah, you can't treat, unfortunately, because the 4 and x squared, they together make one term. You can't separate them out in terms of separate terms, so you have to treat them individually. Okay, so you have to square root. If you're going to square root it, you have to square root the 4 as well, because that's part of it. Okay, so yeah, good question. Okay, but we had to treat 4 with the x squared because of the fact that they were both one term. I hope that answers your question. Okay. If you're still struggling, what I would do is stay back at the end, and I'll give you a link maybe for some way you can actually practice these things. Okay, let's have a look at this, guys. We have a division. Okay, we have a division of 2 fractions again, and immediately after looking at them, I can see that there are 2 quadratics, both of which I could probably simplify by factorizing. Okay, so we're going to do those together. I'm going to give you a bit of a head start. So the one I'm going to do first is 2x squared plus x minus 15. And we are going to factorize this. And then a bit later, we'll do the other one. Okay. Again, in this situation, I would use the AC method. Okay, or any method that you're accustomed to when it comes to solving more challenging quadratics, which these are. Okay, the second one is relatively easy, I think. Looking at it, I think we can put it into one bracket. Looking at it, just face value, yeah, seems like, yeah, you can. So that should be nice and straightforward. The second one, let's have a go at this first one. Sorry. So AC method, we're going to multiply the first and last term, and I get minus 30. So I need to look for 2 terms that if I multiply together would give me negative 30, and if I add together would give me positive 1. Those would be plus 6 times by minus 5. Okay, again, multiply to give me negative 30, add them together, I get plus 1. Going to write them in extended form, so we have 2x squared plus 6x minus 5x minus 15. Dotted line down the middle. And we're going to factorize the expression on the left, copy and paste the bracket on the right, and then work our way through that. Okay, so what is a common factor of 2x squared and 6x? Well, that is just 2x. Put that on the outside. What goes on the inside is simply x plus 3. That is a single bracket factorization of this term. If we copy and paste this bracket, x plus 3, what do we need to multiply this bracket to get up to here? Minus 5. Okay, so our final factorization of this would be 2x minus 5, which comes from these 2 terms on the outside. And then the other bracket is just the one that we copied and pasted. So x plus 3. Okay, let's create our line. Okay, division down here. And then let's have a go at the other one. Going to change color. So 3x squared plus 9x. How do we factorize this, guys? Okay, again, it's just a single bracket one where we're looking for common factors of 3x squared and 9x. That is 3x. So what goes inside the bracket is x plus 3. So I'm just going to show you where we get. So this we can rewrite as 1 over 3x and then x plus 3 in a bracket. And then the other one we can rewrite as 1 over, hopefully you can see that. If you can't, let me zoom out. So 1 over 2x minus 5, x plus 3. Now, if you remember, what were we asked in the question? We're asked to divide them to. And how do we divide? How do we divide fractions? Not KFC. For those of you feeling hungry, but on the right track. KCF. Hopefully you know what that means as well. KCF stands for keep, change, flip, which is referring to the fact that you keep the first fraction as it is, you change the sign from division to multiplication, and you flip the second fraction. So I'm going to do so all the way down here. Okay, so this will become, let me change color again. Let's do pink. I don't have pink. Actually, we do have pink. not that different to the red, but hopefully you can distinguish between it. So we have 1 over 2x minus 5, x plus 3, multiplied with, we're flipping the second one, so it's actually going to be 3x and then x plus 3 in a bracket all over 1. Okay, you don't need to put the 1 as the denominator. You know, hopefully you guys know that it's not necessary whenever you have 1 as the denominator to write it, but I just did it anyway. Okay, so this is where we are at, and we just need to multiply them. Okay, once we multiply the two terms, our denominator, so because we're multiplying both by 1, essentially our numerator is just going to be 3x and x plus 3, and then our denominator is going to be 2x minus 5 and x plus 3. And lo and behold, yet again, we have these two that can cancel out. And so this is what we have. Okay. I have a question. Why do the 3 markers take longer than the 5 mark? Abdullah, honestly, I asked the same question myself. These, in my opinion, these should be worth 4 marks at the very least. Okay. And to be honest, they might be. Where I've got these questions from, I can't remember, but it is possible that they're from the old spec, or sorry, by spec I mean old exam papers, so you know they might have a different perspective on these types of questions now in terms of marks. But but don't worry about that. Generally, I think, especially in the new papers, questions like these are worth about 4 marks at the very least. But again, even though it's 3 marks, I'm going to mention the same point again, because your grades are, in terms of, you know, they're respective to everyone, the whole country doing the papers in year 11. This is 3 or 4 marks you can obtain over 90% of other people, because they won't answer this type of question. I guarantee it. I've never met a student in my life who I've shown these types of questions to and who can get them all like that. And it's obviously because they're hard questions, right? To be honest, sometimes it takes me a while to understand what to do as well. So if you just remember the principles, factorize to begin with. Anything that you see before you apply any division multiplication, factorize, and cross any bits out. Because if you can do that, honestly, then these questions, I'm not even saying it just to you know, exaggerate, but they become easy once you cross them out. Because let's be honest, and the reason why I think these weren't given as many marks in the past is because fundamentally, what are you doing? You're factorizing quadratics, okay, to begin with, which you learn in what, year 8, year 9. You then, what do you do then? Then you do some factorizing of a single bracket, which is even easier than a quadratic, right? Which is not very hard. Again, very elementary stuff. And then the last thing you do is you multiply some fractions, which again, hopefully you learn in about year 9, year 10. So in essence, the actual concepts are not that hard, right? It's just the fact that you have to amalgamate them together and understand that you need to use them together in order to answer this question. Okay, but I completely understand your point. These should be worth more. I believe, like I said, minimum, I think these are 4 markers. Right, what time are we on? We're on 4:40. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip this one because it's relatively similar to the other one. Okay, yes. Let's have a go, because I do want to have a look at some questions that have addition in them as well. Okay, so we're moving from division, moving over from division. Right, 5 over x plus 1 plus 2 over 3x as a single fraction in its simplest form. Okay. What's one thing you guys, or we all learnt, including myself, we learned in primary school? In order to add fractions, what needs to be the same? The denominator. Exactly. Hopefully you said that. Okay. If you didn't say that, just remember, please don't forget this. This is very important. In order to add fractions, you need to have the same denominator. At this moment of time, we have x plus 1 as the denominator and 3x as the denominator. So how the hell do we make the denominator the same when we don't even know what x is? Okay. In this situation, all you do is You just multiply them together. Okay, so I'm just going to write a bullet point to begin with. So let me change back to red. So the common denominator of these two fractions. Sorry if my writing's going a bit wayward. I'm never getting used to this pad. I've had this writing pad for about 4 years. Still not getting used to it. The common denominator of these two fractions is, well, it's just the product, okay, of the two denominators. So it's x plus 1 and 3x. Okay, so what do we need to do in order to have x plus 1 and 3x as our denominator? Well, the first one we multiply by, the first fraction, sorry, we multiply by. Okay, we already have x plus 1. We just need a 3x in there, so that's what we're going to multiply by. So we're going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 3x. Why do we multiply both numerator and denominator? Again, a property of fractions is that as long as you multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number or the same term, the fraction will maintain its value. Okay, so we don't want to be changing the value because then we're messing with the actual question. Multiply the numerators, we get 15x, and multiply the denominators. Again, don't need to expand this. I'm not going to, so I'm just going to leave it as x plus 1 and 3x. Okay, you can expand it if you want to. Again, it's not necessary. Going to change color for the other one. So we have 2 over 3x. Okay, so in this one, we have 3x as the denominator. We need to multiply by x plus 1. So we multiply across. This time I'm actually going to multiply these two. Okay, so when I say multiply these two, I'm saying I'm going to expand the bracket. And then our denominator again is going to be 3x plus 1 and 3x. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully you understand where we get these two from. Okay, so the original question, 5 over x plus 1 plus 2 over 3x, we can rewrite that now. Go back to pink. We can rewrite that as, so 5x plus 1 plus 2 over 3x. Okay, let me just go over here, is equal to, okay, so what do we have? We had 15x over x plus 1, 3x. So these two are equal, and then 2x plus 2 over x plus 1, 3x. And this is where we appear. So, and now we have achieved what we wanted. Okay, we've achieved the fact that we have common denominators. Once we have common denominators, again, what did you learn in primary school? We learned that when you have the same denominators and you're adding fractions, we simply add the numerators, denominators stay the same. So 15x plus 2x plus 2, okay, that's going to give me 17x plus 2 because this and this are like terms. And again, we do not need to do anything to the denominators, they stay put. And this is what we have. Okay. And that's our final answer. Yeah, I believe that's the final answer. Okay. Oh yeah, it's asking us to put it in the simplest form. So what you would do now is you would just double check, can you simplify this any further? And you would ensure that by seeing if you can simplify or factorize the numerator. Can we factorize the numerator here? No, not really. Can't take a factor out of these two, so we're going to leave it as that. So that's our final answer. Okay, 17x plus 2. Nice, Abdullah. Fantastic. Okay, I hope the others, you guys, if you managed to attempt this, you got it right as well. If you didn't, guys, honestly, like I said, these are higher level questions. I don't expect you to be able to do these. If you can, absolutely fantastic. If you cannot, it's more important that you actually understand how I, once I showed you it, obtain the final answer. Okay, and by testing, if you actually understand it, hit pause or click off now. Can you actually redo the same question? Okay, and again, like I said, these videos or these streams are published onto YouTube. So a real test of your knowledge or your learning is to rewatch these videos in about, a couple weeks time, and the questions we do, before we actually do them, click pause. Can you do the questions? If you can, brilliant. That shows you've actually learned the same thing. Fantastic, Mikhail. Lovely stuff, guys. Okay, we are running out of time. So, what is this question? Right, wait. We just did this one, right? So I don't know why that's here. We just did this question, didn't we? Yeah. Let's skip this one. Okay. If you guys want to have a go at this question, please do. Okay, but we've actually run out of time. So what do you want to do? What should we do? Do you guys want to have a do you want to do this last question? What do you guys think? Shall we call it there? Do you feel like you've done enough difficult, complicated questions for today? If you do feel like, I completely understand. But yeah, what I would suggest, I think we're gonna call it there, guys. If you want to make a note of this and maybe do it in your spare time at some point, brilliant. But I think we're gonna call it there. Yeah, and just wrap things up. Okay. And that is it. Yeah. So thank you so much to all of you for attending. I hope. Sorry, Mikhail. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. What I'm going to do is, for those, because as you guys probably already know, the last few minutes of these sessions, we adhere to answering some questions. Okay. And when I say we, I say me. If you ask me the questions, I answer them. Okay. So if you don't have a question, do this question instead. But if you do want to ask me something, okay, in terms of how you're feeling or where you're at with your mathematics, please do. What time are we at? We've got 40. We're on 48. So we can take 10 minutes if any of you do have any questions. Okay, so you guys want to continue with the algebraic fractions exam questions, so do that then. Okay. One thing I do want to ask you guys is give me some feedback just in the chat. How do you feel this went? Is there something you prefer? Because I know these were quite high, challenging questions. So do you prefer this type of scenario where I'm showing you stuff that's quite high level? Or do you want to, do you feel as though you want more content teaching wise to begin with? What do you think? Why are you feeling sad, Mikhail? Okay, I've loaded it back on for you. Yeah, Q&A if you want. Yeah, let's do a Q&A now if you guys want to ask me anything. Okay. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I think the stream's a bit delayed in that. Sorry, the chat is a bit delayed, so I might be maybe half a minute ahead of you guys. So apologies if I don't read your question immediately. Okay. So yeah, give me some feedback, guys. How did you find the lesson in terms of the fact that we did exam questions? Is this something you want to do on a weekly basis? Is this something that you feel as though we should split it up essentially? So do half a lesson where I do content, then exam questions. Tell me what you guys think, okay? Because honestly, you guys are the ambassadors, right? You guys are the ambassadors where you dictate, you sort of control, or your feedback is the most important thing. Probably add more brilliant questions. Push me out of my lid. Nice. I love to hear that. Can we do a GC? Yeah, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking that for our last session in the math squads, I was thinking to do an exam paper. So that is something we can incorporate. So yeah, definitely good advice, good feedback here. Can you do more? Can you do difficult ratios? Oh yes, ratios is a torrid topic. Okay, yes, that is a good question. Yeah, we'll do that. Ratios next week will probably be the focus then. Okay, because I'm always open to your suggestions and stuff like that. Let's just do exam questions. Okay, half lesson content, half lesson questions. Okay, makes sense. Okay, the only thing I would say though, however, is if we do content, okay, we would not be able to do the more challenging stuff. Because if I was to teach you content, obviously I have to go over the more fundamental stuff as well. Okay, so the more the basic concepts. So because we will have to allocate time to that, then we might not have time to do that. We'll see. We'll see. I'll try my best. So maybe minimize, not half and half, but maybe a bit of content and then exam questions. You know, we'll trial some bits and see how those go. Yeah. But thank you. You know, I really appreciate your feedback, guys. Honestly, it helps a lot because this is my first time, right? So I'm a bit of an amateur. So don't really know what I'm doing other than the fact that, you know, I can do a bit of maths. So I enjoy it, honestly. The fact that you guys are so relaxed, you're so chill, it makes my life a lot easier. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that very much. But yeah, if that is all, okay, what we'll do is, do you guys want to, do you want me to show you before we go how to answer this question, or... because I don't know if I've got the mark scheme for this. So if you want me to go through it, but if you feel as though you've done it, fine. I mean, all you needed to do was multiply the first equation by, sorry, first fraction by x minus 4 over x minus 4, and then the second one by x plus 2 over x plus 2, expand them out, okay, and then you multiply, add the numerators together, okay? So yeah, I'm not going to go through it, guys, just give you a quick description there to how you're supposed to go about answering the question, okay? Other than that, thank you so much. You guys are always an absolute treat. You are amazing, and I thank you for that, and I salute you for that. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for attending. Please, 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 guys, before you go, please hit that like button, okay? I hate saying that, right? Because I used to ridicule YouTubers back in the day for saying that. I was like, come on, man, if I like it, I like it. But if you feel like you learned something, only if you feel like you learned something new today, click the like button, okay? If you feel as though you didn't learn anything, absolutely nothing, it's a waste of your time, so sorry if that's the case, but okay, then you don't need to like. But if you did, even the smallest amount, please drop the like, okay? Thank you so much, guys. I have been Yusuf. This has been Math Squads. I will see you same time next week. And thank you. Cheers, guys. Bye.